The question everyone asks: who even invented the internet? It sounds like a simple question, like asking who invented the light bulb or who discovered gravity. But the truth is, the internet doesn't have a single creator. There's no lone genius who woke up one day and said, "I'm going to build the internet." Instead, what we use today is the result of decades of ideas, experiments, and breakthroughs from multiple people, spread across different countries and generations. So today we'll uncover who created the internet. If you're curious about how one of humanity's greatest inventions came to life, then this story is far more interesting than you might expect. It evolved slowly, step by step, from a world that didn't even have computers talking to each other. Let's get into it, right here on History of Simple Things. Back in the 1950s and early 1960s, computers were massive, expensive machines. They weren't something you could carry in your pocket or even fit inside a single room comfortably. And more importantly, they didn't communicate. Each computer was like an island. If you wanted to share information, you had to physically move data on punch cards, magnetic tapes, or paper printouts. There was no sending a file or opening a link. Everything was manual, slow, and disconnected. But as computers became more important, people began asking a critical question: what if these machines could talk to each other? That simple idea would change everything. Interestingly, one of the biggest drivers behind the internet wasn't convenience, it was fear. During the Cold War, the United States was worried about communication systems being destroyed in a nuclear attack. Traditional communication networks were centralized, meaning if one key location was destroyed, the entire system could collapse. This led researchers to explore a new concept: decentralized communication. Instead of relying on a single hub, information could travel across a network of multiple paths. Even if parts of the network were destroyed, the system would still function. This idea laid the foundation for what would eventually become the internet. In the late 1960s, a major breakthrough came from a U.S. government project called ARPANET. ARPANET was the first real attempt to connect computers into a network. It was funded by the Advanced Research Projects Agency, ARPA, and its goal was to allow researchers and institutions to share information quickly. In 1969, the first message was sent between two computers, one at UCLA and another at Stanford. The message was supposed to be the word "login." But the system crashed after the first two letters, so the very first message ever sent over what would become the internet was simply "LO." Not exactly poetic, but incredibly important. While ARPANET was a major milestone, it wouldn't have worked without key individuals who developed the technology behind it. Two of the most important figures were Vint Cerf and Bob Kahn. They worked together to solve a huge problem. How do you get different networks to communicate with each other? Their solution was something called TCP/IP, or Transmission Control Protocol, and Internet Protocol. This system allowed data to be broken into smaller pieces, sent across different routes, and then reassembled at its destination. It didn't matter what kind of computer or network you were using, TCP/IP made communication possible. And this is why many people refer to Cerf and Kahn as the fathers of the internet. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, more networks began to adopt TCP/IP. What started as a small experimental system began to grow into something much larger. Universities, research institutions, and eventually governments started connecting their computers, and slowly a network of networks began to form. This is actually where the term Internet comes from. It literally means interconnected networks. By the 1980s, the foundation was in place, but the Internet still wasn't something the average person could easily use. It was mostly limited to researchers and specialists. That was about to change. In the 1990s, the Internet exploded in popularity. Companies began to see its potential. Websites started appearing everywhere. Email became common. Search engines emerged, and people began to realize that this wasn't just a tool, it was a transformation. By the early 2000s, the Internet had become part of everyday life. Today, billions of people rely on it for communication, entertainment, education, and work. From streaming videos to sending messages across the globe in seconds, the Internet has completely reshaped how we live. And yet, it all started with a few connected computers and a message that barely made it through. What makes the Internet truly fascinating isn't just how it works, it's how it came together. It wasn't built for profit. It wasn't designed as a product. It started as a solution to a problem, how to share information and keep communication alive in uncertain times. And from that, it grew into one of the most powerful tools humanity has ever created. It connects people across continents. It gives access to knowledge instantly. It has changed how we learn, work, and communicate. So the next time you open a website, send a message, or watch a video online, remember this: you're not just using a piece of technology. You're using the result of decades of collaboration, innovation, and experimentation. The Internet wasn't created by one person. It was created by many. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.